Hello, my name is Jerry Wise, and I am a marriage and family expert. I provide client professional help in the office, via Skype, via FaceTime or phone, no matter where my clients live, and even in the comfort of their own living room. Today's video is entitled, Setting Boundaries is Not Emotionally Cutting Off. I have many people come to me and ask me about the family system's understanding of emotional cutoff and boundaries, and many times people equate setting boundaries, distancing, moving away with their family of origin, in their family of origin milieu or context, as cutting off. Or they equate all of those things as not cutting off. And what I want to say is, if you get nothing else from this video, that what I'd like to say is that two people can do the very same thing in terms of boundaries, and one be an emotional cutoff and the other not be an emotional cutoff. And that's what I'd like to talk about in this video today. And why are emotional cutoffs a problem? That's another thing people ask me about. Because it cementizes or solidifies dysfunctional patterns within us. We're all immobile, where everybody's connected and all their strings are connected as the mobile hangs. And if you pull one part, it pulls on the other parts. Or we're all connected in our family of origin, or in society actually, but family of origin for sure, with rubber bands, and we all try to move and twist, but whenever we move it affects someone else over there, because we do have this intergenerational transmission of emotional field, the emotional life of the family. There is a connectedness between us. If we ignore it at our peril. If we don't ignore it, we can find ways out and find ways to become not our family and to become ourselves. And again, not our family doesn't mean I blame my family. It just means I want to be me, not me, my family, me/my family. I just want to be me while I am connected to my family, and that continues on throughout my life. Whether I ever see them or not, it still continues on throughout my life. An emotional cutoff is a process of emotional distancing. An emotional cutoff occurs when we do not feel we have any other options to survive emotionally, or we can survive safely. We then set up external boundaries to deal with this emotional craziness. That emotional craziness that we feel inside, or what we believe the other is causing us to do. That's emotional cutoff language. Unresolved emotional attachments with our family of origin creates and causes emotional cutoff in adult life. And again, people say, well, why does that matter? Because emotional cutoffs in one area of your life can affect emotional cutoffs in other areas of your life. So it's not like we can just do it over here and it not happen over here. Such as, I want you to show me any marriage, any relationship, where one of the spouses have completely cut off from their parents and their family of origin, and that it does not affect their marriage in a negative way. I have just not found anyone. Maybe you know someone, maybe you're the exception. So you don't have to write me and tell me you're the exception. I understand you might be. But for the majority of people, it does affect them in a negative way in their current adult relationships. Many people will say it doesn't affect me, and I'm much happier and better off. I understand you're happier, and I don't deny that. But I'm not sure it doesn't affect you in your current relationship. Many times people are in denial about that because they just want to believe they made a good decision and feel guiltless or not guilty about cutting off from their family, who might be very toxic and very unhealthy. setting boundaries is a process of emotion it is a process of the emotionally mature adult self. Let me repeat that again. Setting boundaries is the process of the emotional mature adult self choosing to limit the chaos or toxicity of others. But it is not an emotionally distancing process. An emotional cutoff does not really get us emotionally distant. That's the whole point that I've tried to make about emotional cutoffs. Many people feel they're emotionally distant when they emotionally cut off. The problem is you're just reacting to the over-closeness. And 180 degrees from sick is still sick. 180 degrees. And whereas boundary setting by a mature adult self isn't a 180 degree. It's a 90 degree act rather than 0 to 180 degrees. Emotional cutoffs does not really get us emotionally distant. It gets us some geographical distance. It gets us, well, I don't talk to my parents anymore. It gets us, I don't talk to my siblings anymore. It gets us to where it's not in my face. I understand that, and that can feel a little better. It really can. But I'm not sure it resolves it. And it actually functions as an enmeshment process. So that emotional cutoff functions as an enmeshment. We get too close because we're too distant. Intimacy is a paradoxical thing. And a paradox is you do the counterintuitive to get what you want rather than the intuitive, what you think should work. We do what doesn't work. Much like I was showing someone the fact of the Chinese finger cuffs. In fact, I see some right here. Sorry, I did have some right here, and I just used them as an example. Here's the Chinese finger cuffs. You put your, this is bamboo, so it's kind of, it's stretchy. And of course, the more you pull, the tighter it becomes, and you can't get out. But our intuitive sense is, let me out, I want out. And that's what emotional cutoff is. And what actually emotional cutoff is it tightens that bond. Now, it tightens us emotionally. Again, we may not see our family of origin, but I'm talking about the internal emotional process. So it tightens that. Whereas the counterintuitive process, which is to do what you don't think is natural or normal, is to push in. And when you push in, you then, if this would work right, but you push in, you can see it loosens the bonds. It's just I can't get it. It's still pretty tight. But the point is, it loosens the bonds, because I couldn't get out at all if I didn't loosen them. So it loosens them, and then I'm able to move out and leave this over here. And then I have true separation or true separateness, rather than this false kind of separateness where I'm just pulling and thinking I'm away. I want to be able to truly detach, not just superficially detach. I want to detach emotionally, not just on the map. Or, okay, I'm not going to go to the holiday dinners. That'll be my emotional, detachment. Setting boundaries, again, is the process of an emotionally mature adult self choosing limits. And that's okay. It's not an emotional distancing process. And again, emotional cutoffs actually attach us more internally to our family of origin, often not less, because we have effects of it in other relationships and other areas of our life. It also has an intergenerational flow, and we transmit that intergenerational emotional toxicity to our kids, because we've cut off from unhealthy family. They then see that cutoff as a healthy thing or normal thing to do. They're cut off from some of the knowledge of their family, and then it goes on, and they get married, and then they have troubles and problems, and that's how we know family systems affects marriages and adult relationships. Emotional cutoff is what I call pseudo-independence. Pseudo-independence does not really free or function in healthy adults. Pseudo-independence is not healthy adulthood. True independence is. Pseudo isn't. And again, if I say, well, I'm going to be successful and I'll never need to ask my parents for help again. I'll never need to ask an ex-wife for help again. And I'll make enough money so I can be on my own. And I won't have to depend on anyone or trust anyone. Now, I may become independent, but it's kind of pseudo-independence. My emotional life is still way over-connected to an ex-wife or parents or whomever I'm trying to be independent from. I still have too much of a focus on that. Actually, our unhealthy, immature inner child is trying to act like an adult. And I try to help people not try to act like an adult, but to act like and become an adult emotionally, where they don't have to run away or cut off from others. The emotional cutoffs are the process of falling off on the side of too much distance or separateness, as we try to get away from the too much closeness or togetherness we feel with the other or with our family. A classic example of this is the most classic example of an immature emotional cutoff. When someone says, I don't believe in going back to my family of origin or doing past work or present work on the family of origin. I just believe I'm an adult now and need to learn to live as an adult. I don't need them anymore. Why focus on them? Just give me tools to live for today. That family of origin stuff is just to keep you a victim and to blame your parents and is a waste of time. So what the person has decided to do is they're never going to see their parents again, and they've cut off from unhealthy siblings. And people will come to me in that state and say, okay, now just give me tools to live. Well, how are you not living then? If you're independent and because their life is not working well. And they know that, and they think it has nothing to do with any of that cutoff. And I usually tend to say, you've got a bunch of issues in there that you keep stumbling over. I'm not saying, and again, they think I'm suggesting they might want to be best friends with their parents or best friends with their siblings. You don't have to be best friends with your siblings. You don't have to be best friends with your family or your parents. That's not what healthy, mature adults do. In fact, healthy, mature adults can even admit to the fact and believe the fact that, if I were choosing friends, I probably wouldn't choose my parents as friends. If I just met them I probably wouldn't even choose them. Or my siblings. They're not like me. That's okay. They don't have to be like you. Can you accept them being not like you and you not like them and not cut off? That's the real goal and trick. I don't have to treat them as though I just love spending time with them. I may not love spending time with them. But cutting off tends to sabotage or derail that maturing process. It would almost be like a 14-year-old running away from their family at 14 and never going back. Do you think that will ever have any impact on their life? Well, it generally tends to. Now, I understand there can be some circumstances in which survival is needful for us to do that. So for all of you who are going to write and say, well, my family's different, I understand. There are times in which, I might recommend you can't do anything, but then I still recommend to them, even if you're going to not see your parents, not talk to them, not talk to your siblings. Okay, that's cool. What are you going to do about the siblings and the parents that are inside you? Let's work on that, because that's still going to help you not cut off. And it's going to be a positive thing to do that. I'm not telling you to go visit them for Christmas. What I'm telling you to do is let's work on the issues that they create for you internally. because just cutting off from them doesn't solve that. Another example of emotional cutoff, Mary had a dysfunctional family, alcoholic family, and very codependent and victim, an under-functioning mother, alcoholic father. The sister moves closer to the mother. Excuse me, I've got that. No, the mother was alcoholic. The father was very codependent, but the mother was very high-functioning. The sister moves closer to Mary, and Mary, so that she, the sister, is now synergizing with Mary. And they're getting along. Now that she's moved closer and also closer to their mother, Mary's sister and the mother are now getting closer, leaving Mary out. So they've formed an unhealthy bond that leaves Mary out of the system, creating a triangle. So Mary chooses to distance herself from her toxic mother and from her toxic sister, but does this due to her jealousy of her sister and desire for a healthier relationship with her mom she just started to have before her sister moved close to them. So now she is more distant and feels more settled inside, but she's still left with the painful jealousy, neediness, hurt, and loneliness. That's the problem. You might feel more settled or more relaxed, but you got all this emotional roiling going on inside. Let me share with you what an emotional cutoff is. Then I'll share what healthy boundaries are like. Emotional cutoff, I act with leftover feelings I don't deal with and choose to distance myself from another or others rather than deal with those feelings. That's the basis of an emotional cutoff. That's what underlies it. I disconnect because I can't handle the relationship emotionally. I use emotional cutoff as a means to change my family of origin or to get them to value me more or to be more empathetic. Well, I'll just punish them. Whenever we cut off to punish, and again, that can be kind of unconscious because we may not realize that. Whenever we cut off to try to punish, that's an emotional cutoff. That's not boundaries. Well, I'm going to set these boundaries. I'm just not going to text or call them anymore. Actually, what we want to do is punish them and change them so that they'll respect us or care about us more. That's an emotional cutoff. That's not boundaries. That's not healthy, mature boundaries. I use my black and white thinking or all or nothing thinking to decide I need to cut off. And again, someone is either all good or all bad. And often cutoffs have to do with that. Acting in the relationship out of irrational expectations or unfulfilled fantasies of the other will result in cutoff or enmeshment. And again, we have these unrealistic expectations. Just as Mary had the expectations with her alcoholic mom, who's high functioning, and so she can relate to her, but the problem is she's hoping her mom will become the mom she always wanted. And now Mary's sister is come in and kind of undermine that process. But the problem is she's more likely to cut off because she's still hoping for the mom she never had. Now, I believe Mom and Mary can have a better relationship because the more calming we do and the more maturing we do as individuals, we actually end up, it tends to lift all boats on the ocean. And so we can have oftentimes a slightly better relationship with a parent that we'd like to relate to. But the thing is, it's never going to be enough to turn them into the fantasy parent that we always wanted. We still have to deal with us, our needs, and taking care of us, and not change them so that I can be happy. Otherwise, we're going to end up getting disappointed, mad, hurt, jealous, and we're going to cut off. So, what is not emotional cutoff? Or what are maybe healthy boundaries? Setting boundaries which are based in my own choosing, values, and beliefs, not to punish or change them, or because I can't handle it emotionally. For example, well, I'll give you some examples. Not tolerating unhealthy or toxic behavior can be a boundary. If you are going to swear at me and all you're going to do is swear, I don't like that. That's abusive. It's emotional verbal abuse. So what we'll need to do is limit our interaction to texting or to email, because I don't want to hear those verbal discounts. So that's a boundary. And I've asked you many times and you haven't respected that, so we're going to go to that. And then eventually, let's just say worst case, the person has cussing Tourette's. They can't stop cussing you because they're mad, they're angry, or they're alcoholic, or who knows what the problems are they're having, because they've had their own problems. And we may have to say, I'm not going to be communicating to you except through letter, because I don't want to subject myself to the verbal abuse. Now, we can say I can't stand it. What I'd want to go work on is me being able to stand it more while telling them I'm not going to take it anymore. But I want to work on increasing my ability to have a more emotional, tougher skin and see them as not well and not take their words personally. I want to be neutral about what they're doing. If a JCPenney clerk cusses at me, that's not going to bother me all that much. I'm going to go, I wonder what's wrong with her. I wonder what's wrong with him. That doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to take it so personally. That's where I want to get to that neutrality state. Setting boundaries are about having non-negotiables. It's about staying in place emotionally and not moving emotionally. It's working to stay in place at the 90-degree level, not either going to the 0 or the 180. And that's not always easy, but it's a worthwhile goal. And then boundaries are appropriate when we avoid abuse. I don't want to be abused, so I'm not going to be hit or screamed at or shamed. And I'll say, hey, we're going to have to change this. I'm going to work on not caring about the shaming or the cussing. I'm going to work on not caring about that. While at the same time, I'm going to go, no, this is not okay. It is okay for us to set boundaries, create distance for safety and for someone who does not respect my non-negotiables. In other words, if I'm coming to talk with my uncle and he wants me to visit, and I'm going, we don't believe the same things politically, let's say, or religiously, or whatever hot items, and all he can do is talk about politics, then I might say, hey, I'm kind of interested in talking about something else. How's the barn that you're building? How is that coming along? And if he keeps trying to evangelize me to his political or religious view, then what I need to do is work on staying out of that game and messing up that game. Versus, I'm never going over there again because he just keeps pushing my buttons. I don't believe the way he believes, and I'm so mad at him and I wish he'd stop. Well, there are ways I can change the subject, or even say, okay, you're right. You like, this political candidate or that political candidate. Maybe they're on both different sides of the same of the spectrum, and I can say, sure, they're great. They're just great. And, then I'm going to be one who's not going to be one to fight with. There's no argument we're going to have because it doesn't mean anything to me. So there is no argument. And I'm interested in changing the process, not just the content. The content I don't care about. No president has called me for my advice. No president has called my uncle for his advice. So what? We're one vote. I mean, that's who we are. Not that vote is unimportant, but that's how much power I have. And so I realize the limitations of my power to change things. So in brief, many ask me, why would I be asking someone to stay in emotional contact with an unhealthy family member? I don't ask anyone to stay in close proximity or over close friendship or acceptance of very toxic family members' behaviors. And when I say staying in emotional contact, That doesn't mean you're talking with them all the time and actually having that one-on-one contact with them all the time. What I mean is stay emotionally contact with them within you so you can deal with the ravages and what has affected you internally. That's what I mean by staying in emotional contact. What I feel is the most healthy is to stay emotionally connected, meaning emotionally neutral, while having healthy boundaries with unhealthy people and unhealthy family members. Again, the goal is to grow emotional neutrality and healthy boundaries. We are aiming at setting boundaries without emotional reactivity. Two people can set the same boundary, as I've said before. One can be neutral and one can be emotional reactivity. One neutral, one reactive. Same boundary. And what I suggest people do is not do the reactive. And that takes some learning and time and some help. And I think it takes some help from a coach or for a relationship expert. So it is not the boundary that defines the cutoff, but our internal emotional state, connectedness, enmeshment, and reactivity that defines the emotional cutoff. This is what I believe is the goal. This is what I believe is the goal and is very possible to attain. I have been helping people attain this for 35 plus years. And I know it works, and they usually come back and thank me many times for that help. It's not because I'm any genius or smart or so brilliant. It's that I have and know ways to help them achieve that, and that they're grateful for. But that's my job. If you'd like to learn more about emotional cutoffs, healthy boundaries, emotional neutrality, with those who have imprinted your life, your family of origin, your spouses, children, grandparents, and you can start, if you'd like to learn more about those things, contact me and you can start your work towards maturity, freedom, reducing emotional reactivity, and feeling strong and having a strong emotional backbone. If you just want to set up a one-time consultation, that's fine. I'm happy to do this to see if I'm the right professional for you to work with. I do charge for that consultation. However, you don't owe me future sessions. You can work as much as you want. I have people who meet 3 times a week. I have people who meet once every month or month and a half. I mean, it depends on where you are and what you're trying to achieve. Please see my contact information on the screen. I should have my email address and my phone number. If you want free resources, you can contact me and I'll send them to you, and also send you information about working with me. No matter what country you're in. Unfortunately, I just speak English, so we primarily work with the English speaking. I wish I spoke more. I did take German, but I don't speak enough German to do well enough in a coaching session. Please join our YouTube, Facebook channel. I want to thank you for watching, and have a great day. Hey, hi everybody. My name is Jerry Wise. I'm a life and relationship coach and the director and founder of Jerry Wise Relationship Systems. This video is entitled Moving from Feelings to Thinking. It's one of the 3 important self-differentiation shifts that we can learn to make. And I'll be talking about these now, today, and in the future. I hope you'll subscribe to this channel and click the bell so you get all the new videos that come. And also, if you would be willing to join for $1.99 a month that helps support free videos on YouTube. I also have a workshop coming up on February the 6th on Saturday from 1 to 5 p.m. You can join on my channel. There's a link down below where you can use that to join the workshop, to work with me for 4 hours. And we'll have, there's a limited number of people that will be attending so that we can have question and answers, and maybe I can work with some people during the session. And it's on getting your family of origin out of you. There are 3 shifts we make in our self-focus and self-awareness and self-processing. Often people will ask me, well, Jerry, how do I self-differentiate? What do I do to self-differentiate? Well, they'll many times say, well, what's your 3 good tips for doing that? And these are the 3 good tips. It's just they involve a paradigm and a thinking change to do them. So it's not just simply a quick fix of just do A, just do B, and then you're self-differentiated. And people ask me all the time, and I try to help educate them about self-differentiation. Peter Titleman, in his book, The Therapist's Own Family, which every therapist or coach should read, to deal with their own issues in their own family of origin before they start working with other people. Because when people are in session, I have a client and they're helping them as a coach. My family's here and their family's here. It's all here inside of us. And so the more I'm aware of my family, I can help them be more aware of their family and their issues, and my issues get in the way less in working with you. And I supervise and train some therapists and help them to learn to be better therapists by being aware of their own issues. That will help them be clearer and more helpful to their clients. Peter Titleman wrote this great book, and in it he talks about the 3 shifts that we want to make to really become self-differentiated. Moving from feeling to thinking. Secondly, moving from cause and effect to process thinking. And thirdly, moving from self-focus to a systems focus. I think that provides us with the ability to be more in control of ourselves and more in control of how we interact with other people. And I'm going to be talking about the first one today, which is moving from feeling to thinking. And this is a beginning video. So what do I think about feelings? Do I think we should only think and not feel? No. I've been working with people in recovery, from codependency to ACOAs, to ACONs, adult children narcissists, and lots of folks who have struggles with self-differentiation. In fact, most of us do. That's the process of growing up, is self-differentiation. So what do I believe about feelings? Are they important? They should not be ignored. They're very important. Am I suggesting people should stop feeling? Certainly not. Our feelings are very important for our recovery. There are many, just like myself, who had frozen feelings. I remember the first time a therapist asked me what was I feeling, and I went, I don't know. Why do you ask? I didn't know you could even just access your feelings at that moment. And my feelings were pretty numb and frozen as a recovering or as a codependent. I just wasn't aware of my inner self. I was only aware of everybody else and everyone else's inner self, but certainly not my own. For those who have grown up in families in which feelings were ignored or punished, then our feelings get shoved way down. Now, that doesn't mean they don't play an important part in our life and later. Just because you're numb and just because you have frozen feelings doesn't mean you don't act on those feelings. We all need to learn to identify and express our feelings. However, I think not all feelings are equal, and not all feelings are the same. When I say moving from feeling to thinking, or as I understand Peter Titelman talking about that, what he's talking about is moving away from systems feeling to thinking, moving away from reactive feelings to thinking, moving away from the anxiety in the emotional system that's going on to thinking. We want to override reactive thoughts, feelings, and behavior. We want to override that because it feels so natural, it feels so common. Actually, of the skills we want to learn is how to identify our feelings and what to do with them, while remembering there's two types, true feelings and systems feelings. You might want to watch my video on true feelings versus systems feelings on my YouTube channel. Recently, I had a friend who had betrayed me, and he had been trusted for 15 years, and he had betrayed me, and I won't go into all the details of that, but it involved addiction, and he had been sobered, straight, clean for I don't know how long, and then he relapsed, I think with his brother, and it was very painful. And when he betrayed me with a credit card or stealing something, then I felt sad, hurt, betrayed. Hey, I felt these were true feelings. I felt very sad. I felt betrayed. I felt hurt. I had trusted him significantly. I also felt shame, stupid, naive, which I believe were systems feelings, or dumb, and these came from my past and not the present, because I hadn't done anything shameful or stupid or naive in this relationship with my friend. He had betrayed me. I didn't tell him to. I think his addiction betrayed him. And so those are true feelings that we can have. But shame, stupid, naive, dumb, all those feelings, those are often systems feelings. And many times we can react out of those feelings, which is where Peter Titelman's saying, shift from feelings to thinking. If your favorite parent passes away, of which both my parents have passed away, you may feel the true feelings of grief and loss. When we feel abandonment or shame over the loss of a parent, then we're oftentimes experiencing systems feelings or feelings from our past. Because we will all pass away one day, and if we feel abandoned, we probably have abandonment issues, and that can create all kinds of feeling, thinking, and behavior that can be reactive. Whereas grief and loss is the appropriate adult response to the death of a loved one. In relationships, we often feel about what's going on in the relationship versus think about what's going on. This is our feel-think system based on our old reactivity and the older part of our brain. So that feel about is when we get triggered in the limbic system. It triggers our thinking, behavior, and feelings. And now we're often running with systems feelings, systems behavior, all kinds of things, and reactivity. And often we feel this, and it happens so fast we're not even aware that it's happening back here and moving forward, much like a fight or flight experience. If you have a fight or flight experience, there's not much time. You're just in a reactive mode. Well, certainly that's a survival skill and a process that we need as humans living in this universe. We need that. That's a healthy part of us. The problem is that system becomes fight or flight when it shouldn't be fight or flight. And so we're triggered by that older, deeper brain or older issues, and then we find ourselves doing our relationships out of that system. what I believe is important is to slow down or challenge this. Like Dr. Ross Rosenberg, he shares the observe, don't absorb technique found in his book, Surviving Narcissistic Abuse, The Human Magnet Syndrome. And this is equivalent to me saying, think about versus feel about what's going on. And when you're observing, you're thinking about it. When you're absorbing, then you're just acting out of the system emotionality that's flowing back and forth between the two of you, or the 10 of you, or the 5 of you, or whatever the relationship system, or the department, or the church, or because all organizations, all groups have an emotional field as to how they interact with each other. In fact, everything is a family. When I was pastoring a church will act like a family. You'll have scapegoats, golden children, you'll have sibling rivalry, you'll have people projecting parental things on me as the pastor, and I can project things on them as brothers and sisters or siblings. And all of that is a systems way of how we function, but it may not be a healthy way. And oftentimes it harkens back to when we were growing up in our families. So let me give you an example, a feel about example. I'm going to just use two names, Joe and Mary. Joe comes home from work, from his office, and Mary complains to Joe, hey Joe, I think you're paying too much attention to the female office manager that you have, and it concerns me. Joe had an affair 15 years ago, and Mary knows about it and knew about it, and so she makes this statement to him. And she's not real reactive about it, though I imagine she's probably a little triggered, but she makes that statement to Joe, and Joe becomes very reactive and tells Mary, why don't you just get over it? I'm not doing anything wrong. Stop criticizing me when I've done nothing wrong. Nobody else thinks I'm doing anything wrong. I think Joe is absorbing, not observing. And Joe is feeling about the situation that has just happened. And again, as Ross Rosenberg might say, is he's absorbing. And how do I know he's absorbing? Because there's telltale signs. He is not calm. He is blaming. He is defending himself. And he's triangulating with others. He's not calm. He blames Mary. He's defending himself. I'm not doing anything wrong. And he's triangulating. And nobody else thinks I'm doing anything wrong. It's Mary, him, and all these other people. So that's a triangle. And when we do those things, we are often feeling about a situation, not thinking about it. He believes he's thinking about the situation and making rational responses to Mary. But in reality, he's feeling about the situation, which are driving his thoughts. His feelings are in the driver's seat, and his thoughts are in the passenger seat or the back seat. But he's thinking, and he's not. He's just feeling. Thinking is really what I say. So how could Joe move from feeling about this situation to thinking about or observing the situation with Mary? First of all, we have to start by being calm. If you start to get reactive, if you start to get exorcised, if you start to get intense, if you start to feel anxious, we're already on the wrong road. Calmness, as I say in the great video that I really like, calmness is everything, which is one of my videos. It's a long video, but I talk about how important calmness is. Calmness is everything. He could then choose to resist blaming. He could choose to resist defending himself. And he could choose to resist triangulating with others. Mary, don't you see all these other people think I'm just fine? I don't need the authority of others to do that. So we want to reflect on, since I'm doing these things or want to do these things, because if you feel like you want to do those things, that's when we need to stop and choose to be calm. I need to think more versus feel more, or focus on thinking more than focusing on my feelings. And when someone challenges me, I want to immediately shift to thinking rather than feeling. There's a time and a place to focus on feelings, and I want to reinforce that. And in fact, I think there were some other feelings that might be true feelings that Joe's having, but he's not aware of those. He's just aware of his system's feelings and is acting on them. He might feel some shame. He might feel some guilt. He might feel some exhaustion or frustration. Those all can be reasonably true feelings that Joe may have, but he doesn't tell Mary that. He just feels this reactive pull and then just starts, reactively talking back to her. Self-awareness and feelings awareness, this work is important. But being overly enmeshed with our emotional system causes reactivity. And again, I think it's very important that we become aware of our feelings. But would you say Joe is being aware of his feelings? I think Joe is being aware of his trigger. Joe is being triggered and is reactive, and I'm not sure how much he is aware of what's going on within him. And that's what happens when we become reactive, are not calm, and when we're absorbing rather than thinking. Then we think we're doing the right thing, but we're actually doing all the wrong things to try to correct this situation. We want to look at the flow of anxiety. When I start to feel triggered, Mary may have been triggered by him taking a gift to his office manager, or purchasing a gift for her, out of appreciation for the work she's done, let's say. And Mary could start to feel more anxious about that because of the previous affair. And so Mary comes to Joe. She has a little hot potato, offers that to Joe. Joe now has the hot potato. It gets really hot now. It gets thrown back to Mary. Mary has the hot potato of anxiety. Then she responds back. And then we have this chain of and feedback loop of anxiety that's going back and forth. No one's being aware of their true feelings, and there's not as much thinking going on about what's happening. And that's what I call kind of the hot potato process. We want to drop the hot potato. If someone hands you a hot potato by accusing you of something, challenging you, disagreeing with you, I want to put the potato down and not let it guide everything that's going on within me. Because if I grab hold of the hot potato, if I have fight or flight, if I have just reactivity, it's not going to go well. And it will often either keep something bad in place or will make things worse. I hope today has been a help to you. I want to thank you for joining me today. Please join the workshop on February 6th. Join this channel. Have a great day and be wise.
Hi everybody. My name is Jerry Wise, and I'm a life and relationship coach. And this video is entitled Stop Using Normal Rules for Abnormal Relationships. Have you ever heard the phrase tough love? Why do we call it tough love? Because it falls outside of the normal rules of what we expect normal loving to be. And we have to put that tough on the front of it to identify it. But tough love can be a very good thing. But it's implying that if you use regular love, that's not helpful, or that's not a rule that's going to apply in this situation very well. Many times it feels like the opposite of love when we give tough love. I want to thank you for joining me today, and thanks for watching this video. When relating to others around us, we tend to start with empathy and adapting within the relationship. What if the other person or persons don't play by the same rules? They may begin with, how can I manipulate you? How can I get my dependency needs met? How can I be superior to you? Etc. And they play by other rules than our more empathetic and being adaptive kind of way we do in relationships, and the way we would want to be in more healthy, mature, peer, mutual relationships. We begin, we function, and we process relationships with all of the relationship rules we have been taught and we have been imprinted with from our family, from society, from religion, from any number of groups of tribes and groups we are a part of. Some rules are good, some rules are bad, some are irrelevant, and some don't even apply. And then, as I'm going to be talking later, and that many of those rules don't come with instructions. They just come with the rule. Secondly, unhealthy people use normal relationship rules as leverage against us and against the reasonable and empathetic friend or spouse or family member. And oftentimes in unhealthy relationships, the person who is the least mature will want the other person to follow those rules carefully, but they don't have to follow them themselves. The needy, the toxic, and the immature people will use normal rules against us, and they hope that we will be caring, forgiving, overly worried about them, always thinking to love our neighbor, and that we'll always be nice and never be troublesome, etc., etc. And they are counting on that, which I think can cause us a lot of problems. And again, I want to say regarding those rules may not be bad rules. They just don't apply in all relationships. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Often relationships are troubled, as I've said, by a double standard. We are told we need to keep our values or keep to the normal rules, but the other person won't or will act like it doesn't matter. And that's a part of this mystification process. Mystification is a good word for toxic relationships when mystification occurs. Let me give you an example. Thank you for letting me borrow your car, a friend may tell you. I know the engine or the oil light and engine light came on, but I assume it was just a sensor, and I kept driving it thinking I will let you take care of the car when I bring it back. I'm sorry you have to replace the engine now. I grew up never being allowed to fix a car or learn how to take care of a car. But thanks for letting me borrow the car. What rules do they expect you to follow, and what rules of relationships are they following? And they are assuming you should follow the rule that we should always be understanding, that we should always be forgiving, that we should never be angry, and we should accept their choices, learned helplessness, behavioral choices, and their limitations. Well, I don't have to follow all of those rules. And again, if you notice, the friend who borrowed the car is not offering to pay for the car, not taking any responsibility for their choices when the light and the oil light came on. Many of us would probably stop the car at some point, call the owner, call me, whoever, if I have it, and say, what would you like me to do? Because I don't want to injure your car. I don't want to harm it. I don't want there to be a problem. And this person didn't do it. They just took their own immature assumptions and then bring it to you, go, well, sorry, you have to replace the engine. It's your car. And again, that's kind of a double standard too. Well, it's your car now, but you were borrowing it and it was under your control when you were driving it. And the lights and sensors were clearly on and you did nothing about it, nor did you contact me about it. We don't want to fall for the double standard. Here's an example of a double standard. Well, I'm just your dad and I'm old, so I will continue to be intrusive and critical of your life. That's just what parents do. And I also know that dad would never allow me to criticize him or be intrusive with my opinions or beliefs with him. That would never be acceptable. He's able to do that, but I should better not. Double standard. And then I want to learn option C, which is, well, Dad, I see that you're either unwilling or unable to change by what you just said, because parents just don't change. They just keep doing that. You may find me visiting less often and telling you fewer things about my life, not because I would not like to include you or share them with you, but because of your way of thinking and relating to me. It's difficult for me to tolerate that. I'm sorry, Dad. I love you. Then I'm playing by his rules and my rules. My rules are, you don't get to do that or disrespect me. And if you're just saying, well, that's just the way I am, then I'll take that as exactly what you mean. It's just the way you are. Well, then I'm going to have to change. And that change may be, we may not be as close. If you're just going to go, it's just the way I am, meaning I'm not going to change for you or anybody else. Well, okay, you don't have to, but that may impact my relationship with you. We feel the pull to love all people, respect all people. But not everyone is very lovable nor respectable. I hope you've found that to be true as you grow up and as you get older. In my elderly old age, which I say in tongue-in-cheek, but I've come to, some people are not very lovable. Some people are not very respectable. But my training would love all people. But disordered and unhealthy or very immature, toxic people in our lives, I want to love in a special way by letting them hit bottom, not by giving them toxic empathy or toxic sympathy or toxic, or if that's a redundancy, enabling. I don't want to enable the negative sides of themselves. And if I just enable and just am overly sympathetic, then there are no consequences for their bad behavior. They don't have to change. I just have to put up with it. Well, I'm not sure I have to do that to be loving. Because of what you're creating, I don't have to be loving in that way. And I can be loving in a different way. I will let the universe deal with you. Whatever the universe deals out, but probably it's going to impact our relationship. And I may not be talking to you, or feeling as though I owe you anything. I am not required to love you in a way that you don't love me. Another rule, respect all people. But toxic people need a special respect to maybe get some insight into their own behavior, or their beliefs, or their attitudes. And I may respect them by avoiding them and limit their effect and involvement in my life. They may be seen as unhealthy cells in my relationship body. And there are people that are unhealthy cells in the body society and in the body of the family. Unhealthy or cancerous cells are invasive. They play by double standards, and they fuse with the healthy parts of me, but those healthy parts of me will end up becoming toxic or cancerous or sick if I continue that. I like Edwin Friedman's discussion about virology. You might want to find some of his videos online. They were made a while back, but they were really good in terms of describing how unhealthy people are like unhealthy cells. And if we treat them as an equivalent healthy cell, we're going to get sick and it's going to cause problems. I want to respect them by avoiding them. I want to respect their right not to get help. They can choose not to get help. They can choose not to change. And I choose to be neither reactive nor naive about them. And I see that boundary-needing relationships, boundary-needing relationships, as ones that I need to set strong boundaries which respect me and may model for them how to respect someone. Because they obviously haven't learned it, don't want to learn it, have no interest in it, and see no need for it. Well, that's fine. I'm going to respect them by having boundaries. And then I'm not pushing them away. They decide whether they're going to push me away. Because boundaries don't push people away. People get pushed away by not respecting your boundaries. They're pushing you away, not the other way. Boundaries do not push away people. It sets the relationship for a healthy foundation, is what they do. They're not to push someone away. But if someone doesn't respect your boundaries, then they're going to feel pushed away. But it's actually a myth. All societal rules, family rules, personal internalized rules, religious rules need to come with instructions and expectations. And many times they don't. And so we just internalize the rules and apply them across the board equally. That will cause us some problems. Because everyone we're dealing with, working with, relating to are not the same and are not equal. If I apply caring for or helping my sister and being supportive, maybe helping her financially or something in that way, that's different than caring for a cousin who is alcoholic or addict and is completely dying an inch at a time, and me helping him in the same way I would help my sister. The one help would be healthy. To help him in that way would be enabling and very unhealthy and not loving. How about the rule, one should never lie? Do you believe we should never lie? While I think that's an absolute and great rule, an absolute great guideline, let me give you an example. when I was doing marital and family therapy with folks, and someone would find out that Mary might be seeing me, she and her husband or whatever, and then someone asked me, "What, do you know Mary Smith?" And I knew she was a client, and I would say, "I have no idea who that is. Am I telling a lie?" "Yeah, I think I am." Well, we should never tell a lie. So I should say, "Yes, I know Mary." "Was she a client of yours?" "Oh, well, I really can't discuss that." Even by implying I know her and saying I can't discuss that, I've already answered the question. She is. Because that's what they're going to assume. I don't want them to even assume that. So lying is a better road in that instance. And it's better to lie because I have a higher goal of maintaining her confidentiality. And that's more important than the lying rule. So not many rules need to come with instructions about how we use them. Well, let's say, if someone, and I come from a Christian background, a religious background, if someone hurts you, you should turn the other cheek, says the Bible. Yes, it does have that rule in there that we should turn the other cheek. So if a wife is assaulted by her husband, should she just turn the other cheek? Is that what that means and what that rule and guideline means? I think we might have some problems with that we should not just turn the other cheek. That's a real problem. Why would anyone go no contact with their family? Family is all we have. That's another rule that a lot of people live by. Well, I just can't go no contact with my family because then who would I have? And, how would my family feel? And they would be hurt. And I wouldn't be able to attend the Christmas and holiday gatherings where people are crazy and difficult. And I don't know if I could live without that. Well, there may be times we should go and it would be appropriate to go no contact, and there are other times when it may not be appropriate to go no contact. So that rule can vary with the family and the personal experience the person has. Often we acquire our values, beliefs, rules from our family of origin. These are our borrowed convictions, beliefs, values, without choosing these values for ourselves. For example, if you have a value that I really believe I should love everyone, well, what is your conviction about loving everyone? How do you see that? And in what way? Have you thought further than just the rule itself? Are there times when it might not be healthy to love everyone in the same way? Some of those rules that we've borrowed or we've taken in, love everybody because we are all God's creatures. Well, in my mind, we are all God's creatures, or the universe has produced us. We are all equal in that way. We are human beings. All people are human beings. I do understand that, but not all people are the same human beings. And how and in what ways do we love everyone? Is there ever a time we should not love someone? There may be some historical examples where it would be very immature to love someone who is so evil or so toxic, who is mean, or who might be evil. And I like Scott Peck's books, where he's a psychiatrist that deals with the issue of evil. And do you believe there's evil out there? And should evil be loved just as equally as non-evil? Expect a friend or family to hurt or disrespect you at some point. Okay, I may have learned that from family. Well, how much disrespect? Disrespect how far? And hurt, how much is acceptable for hurt? Does that mean I should live in continued hurt and disrespect for the next 25 years? Because I just should expect that all, a family or friends going to disrespect me or hurt me. Well, okay, I understand that could happen, but how far is too far? Rather than just expecting it. And I've already talked about if someone hurts you, turn the other cheek, to the point of self-injury. When is it enabling when we do that? Always protect your integrity and the integrity of others. Is it always good to protect everybody's integrity? What about family secrets? An uncle is being sexually inappropriate with brother or sister or cousin or whatever, and everybody protects his integrity and protects the integrity of others, and we don't want the victim to feel ashamed, so we just won't talk about it and we will act as though it never existed. Now we have a secret. Is that really what we should do to protect everybody's integrity? That's not how you protect people's integrity. Remember, life is not fair and life does not grant you everything. So we all have to settle. Well, how much should I settle for? When should I settle? With what kinds of relationships should I settle? What should I accept and what should I not accept? So again, I understand life's not fair, And I understand that in some ways I'll have to settle and accept my own limitations or what is. But how much and when and what kind of relationships and all those questions that come in. Here's another good one. Never judge anyone, so you won't be judged. What does judging mean? Making an evaluation or coming to believe how you see things? Or is it a self-righteous opinion about someone? And I tend to think judging tends to be more that self-righteous opinion about someone. So that means we shouldn't have judges or doctors or psychiatrists or therapists or anybody who makes judgments. We shouldn't judge anyone. Well, so no spouse should evaluate their spouse or understand or learn more about their spouse. And I've had people say, no one should ever call anyone a narcissist because they're not a psychiatrist. Okay, I understand there can be danger in labeling or psychologizing or psychiatrizing, relationships. But what about the common sense if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, looks like a duck? Maybe it's a duck? And I don't have to be a psychiatrist to know that? I understand I'm not making a legal DSM, diagnosis of this person, but boy, it has all the flavors of it. And can we come to our own conclusions as useful and avoiding self-righteous opinions and judge in an appropriate way? Because I think we'll need to, and we have to. Here's a classic one. Honor your father and your mother. And that gets preached as a pretty solid law many times. Even if they are toxic, mean, manipulative, even evil, we should just honor them? Well, how are we going to do that? And is that what that verse means? I think there were some expectations that parents had expectations too in honoring their children. Not just honor your father and your mother and it's a one-way street. It's a two-way street. And so I have a lot of people who say, well, I can't go tell my mother that I think she's been really mean to me and the decision she has made, because that wouldn't be honoring her. So she can be mean and you shouldn't judge her and you should honor her. Well, now you're using normal relationship rules for abnormal relationships. And that's going to get us into trouble and cause some real problems. Here are some new rules I would advise for everyone. Take what you can use and leave the rest. If you don't agree, that's fine. You don't have to agree with me. Just take what you can use. And if it's helpful, do that. Never trust a narcissist. I don't think it's a good idea. If parents don't love and respect you, you owe them nothing. If parents love and respect you, you still owe them nothing. We don't owe anyone a relationship, no matter whether there's blood ties or not, or DNA that's similar. We don't owe anyone a relationship. And if we grew up as a dependent child with these parents, that doesn't mean we owe them anything. That's what parents do, is raise their children. Kids don't have to pay back being born, raised, provided for, sent to college, taken to the doctor, given an allowance, or other ways parents sacrifice for them. We can certainly be grateful, feel loved or supported, and cared for by parents, but not owing them. The owing is where it gets unhealthy and problematic. If a person does not respect me, I can behave respectfully, but that does not mean I must respect you or take abuse or even be around you. I owe no one a relationship, whether sibling or parents or friends or other church members or other people in your synagogue or in your mosque. We don't owe someone a relationship. Another rule, I think, could be a more new rule of health. If they hurt or betray you badly once, they will again in the future without inner core work and change. So, is it possible someone can have an affair and change? Yes, I believe that's possible. But they have to do that inner work to do that. If they just come back and say, oh, I'm so sorry, and I'll never do that again because now I got caught and I'll never do that again. I also see how bad it was. I have greater empathy now and I'm sorry it just was so devastating. I'm not sure that's enough to be able to trust them fully. I think they really need to do their work for them to be trustworthy. Not everyone deserves a second or even a third chance. We do not owe everyone a second or third chance. It depends. And so I don't have to give someone a second chance if I don't want to. And it's not owed to them. Well, haven't you made mistakes, Jerry? I certainly have. And there have been situations in which I didn't get a second chance. And that's a part of life. That's a part of how the universe works. And it's not fun to mess up and then not get a second chance. Well, the same could be true for someone else in my life. I do give people second chances and things like that, but it's not owed. As adults, families are comprised not of fantasy relationships, but adult-to-adult relationships is what families should be comprised of. As an adult, I require all others to treat me as an adult feeling person. I'm no longer a child. And so I keep that rule very solidly in my head. And I try to apply it without reactivity. I apply it calmly, not reactively. As an adult, there is no one whom I owe respect, love, and generosity. And that includes all relationships. Friends, family, kids, spouse, in-laws, and anyone else. I don't owe someone respect, love, and generosity, even my children, if their behavior is such that it's problematic. Now, as children, I do need to support them, nurture them, love them, get them the help they need, all of those things, which I would do as a parent. When they become an adult, I'm not parent anymore. Parenting ends at 18 or whatever. You're now an adult. We're equal in this universe. I just happen to be older, but we're equal. We're both adults. And I can't put you in the corner anymore. And certainly I would not talk about neglect of children as something that would be worthy of them. But again, I think there are kids sometimes that feel entitled to that no matter what they do. And I don't like that rule, that you should have all that no matter what you do, because that's not the way the universe works. There is no one I owe to listen to them. If I'm married, then I have agreed to a shared life. So listening is an important part of that shared life. But it must be mutual. You don't have to be a certain way or do something because they believe it is your role. Well, you're my wife, you have to listen to me. Well, you're my husband, you have to listen to me. Well, not if you're not doing it in an adult fashion and a respectful fashion that includes me. And if you have problems like that, then that's when you need to get some help for the couple. I want to remind you to be careful about the following normal rules with unhealthy, toxic, and negative relationships. They will use these rules against you. Remember, those who are unhealthy will try to shame us by not following those normal rules. When they're not following them at all, they'll shame us or guilt us that we're not following them. Another rule I think of here at the end, if someone asks you a question about your life, polite society and good rules of behavior means you should answer. No. I have every right to know the context or the reason for the question. My rule is this. If I'm asking someone a personal question, I preface it with why I'm asking. And many people will ask personal questions and don't preface it with why they're asking. You don't know why they're asking. If my friend Andy asked me about my taxes, because I tend to get late on doing my taxes each year, it's quite different than when my mother was asking about how I was doing on my taxes. Andy is concerned and supportive. Mom tended to be more anxious and shamed and fearful and upset my life was not in order. Mom is asking for herself. Andy is asking for me. Same question, different context. I think I'll call it a day today. I want to thank you so much for being here with me. I know I went a little long today. There are 3 workshops, I think, or maybe 4 workshops on the website if you want to go there for rent or purchase. I have another workshop that's going to be coming up, and I'll be getting that information out. If you join this channel, subscribe, like, click the bell so you get the newest videos. Again, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. Have a great day, and be wise. 1.
Hey, hi everyone. This is Jerry Wise, a life and relationship coach. And thank you for joining Jerry Wise Relationship Systems YouTube channel. I hope you'll subscribe and also join the membership, paid membership of $1.99 a month. I hope you'll click join and join us for that. Help support the videos, the free videos that you get.
We are continuing with our principles of self-differentiation, and this is number 11, I believe. I am happily joined by Yitz Goldberg, who also works here and sees clients. And I thought I would have Yitz say hello and introduce the principle.
Hey everyone, good to be here again. Today we will be talking about principle number 11, which is learning to make peace with differences in yourself and others. And to me, this principle is about being okay, not only with similarities with others, but also with differences. And very often we are okay when it comes to other people and relationships when things are very similar and we have things in common, and we tend to not be okay or even lose ourselves when there are differences, and when especially when those differences are very, very clear and out there.
I made a note. Accepting differences is a means to accepting self. And certainly other people, we cannot control other people's thoughts, feelings, beliefs. And if we accept the differences between us, we then are able to more differentiate or detach ourselves by accepting their differences. And we begin to see more clearly where we end and others begin when we do that. So finding self with accepting differences is a way for us to find that self.
Yeah, and as humans, we have a lot of things that are common, right? Just from being human, and I even feel like that our culture expects us to find things that we are similar in, and try to find more similarities than being okay with differences. And there's a certain point of this work is learning to find those differences and be okay with them, because those differences are part of being human. It doesn't make you unhuman because you're different. That it's on the same
right.
It's on the same coin. It's just two sides of the coin.
Right. And we have sameness and we have differentness. And in family systems theory, we have togetherness and we have separateness. We have individuation and we have connectedness. And we hold those two forces together. And that's a part of the human experience. It's actually a part of the whole biological experience of life, holding togetherness and separateness together. That's how life works, I believe, even on a cellular level, or even smaller than that.
Edwin Friedman talks about that in his book, Failure of Nerve. He goes deeper into that example of cells and how they are differentiated, and when they connect together, that's what creates cancer.
Right. When there's too much togetherness or fusion, then you have disease. And when you have a healthy balance of togetherness and separateness, you have a healthy life, healthy functioning life. When you have too much distance or separateness and no togetherness, then you don't have life. I think for many people who are in recovery, for many people who grew up in dysfunctional families and have struggled in their codependency or other kinds of problems that they've experienced. I know for me, as a codependent, my existence was based on their beliefs and our sameness. And my existence was based on that. That's how important the sameness of beliefs and also feeling states, having mirrored feeling states was so important. I feel like you, you feel like me. I think like you think like me. And so differences were not valued. I think in my own religious past, there was a very strong pressure for sameness. We all should think and feel the same way. We should have a group think, and differences were not very well accepted. If you did not hold the party line or hold the company line, and that there was a great value in sameness, and even the feeling that my existence is based on same beliefs, same feelings, sameness, thinking alike, feeling alike, and not valuing the differences. And that if I'm me, if I'm self-aware, self-defined, and self-regulated, I'm going to be different from other people. And that's a good thing. And that's a good thing. Like you say, it's the human thing.
And if someone else is going to be self, they will be different for me.
Right. They will be different. And we can have difference while also being connected. Though for many people, it is hard for them to connect with someone who is different from them. Because again, our existence or my existence was based on sameness. So if you're not same like me, then I need to exclude you, or we're not going to gel. We're not going to connect because we're not the same. And that is a problem and can be a problem because we are unique. We may have some common beliefs. We may even have some common feelings about different things, but I am still going to be a unique individual. And I won't believe everything everybody believes. I won't feel the way everybody feels. And can we still be connected? But accepting those differences is, I think, a part of maturity and growing up. That not everybody is me. And that's what I was looking for when I was younger.
And differences have it has many forms. Differences. It could be strengths that you or the other have. It could be weaknesses or limitations that you or the other have. And I can go even deeper with this, that accepting differences means accepting others' strengths without feeling inferior, meaning you don't feel less than the other person just because they have a strength, or you don't feel more than the other person just because you have a certain strength. You don't feel guilt for having a strength because you're allowed to have that strength, and you're allowed to be different than the other person in this way. And it's understanding that when a lot of times feeling those feelings is because of the differences between ourselves and the other person. And very often when we feel those feelings, it's because we're not understanding this principle. We're not remembering this principle that their difference means nothing about my difference, and my difference means nothing about their difference.
Right. Well, and I think that's where the therapeutic value comes in,
and how it can be helpful in that they can be different and think different. I can be me and think differently, so that if they have a negative view of me, I'm letting them have that negative view of me, but I'm not absorbing it. And we don't have to think alike. I don't think that I am bad or stupid or worthless, or, you may think that. That's your thoughts. And so it gives me a greater amount of detachment and neutrality, because I accept that their differences can be ludicrous. I mean, they can be ridiculous, in dysfunctional families. And those are their beliefs for whatever reasons, and there could be many reasons, but they're not my beliefs. And so they are different from me. And so I don't have to absorb that. I can observe those differences rather than absorb them.
Yeah.
And the health of I am not you and you are not me notion, which I think is a helpful thing to be aware of, a helpful notion to have with other people. I'm not you and you're not me. And we don't have to be. That's even because my beliefs early on in my life were we have to be. We just do. And you have to like me, you have to agree with me. I shouldn't talk or be with people who don't think and feel the same way I do. And so we surround ourselves, particularly as codependents, with people who we can more enmesh with, and we see a lot more sameness. But then that causes problems, because then that stifles the real self. And then we hide, then we keep secrets, then we lie, then we have those kinds of difficulties with that sameness that's needed for us all to feel comfortable. And differences are a big thing. And I think that's a part of maturing and getting older, that you begin to realize, people think differently than I do, and they will. And is that okay? And is okay to think what I think and believe what I believe, and principles, values, morals, beliefs. Is it okay that I am not the same?
Yeah. And I've learned on myself from the work I've done on myself that over functioning or being a hero is not respecting other people's differences. When you try to change someone, you are not respecting the difference between you and the other person. When you're trying to fix them, when you're trying to fix a situation, it is not honoring this simple principle of there are differences, and it's okay that there are differences, and can you relate despite the differences, and what is required from you? What type of self-regulation do you need to do, or self-definition do you need to do when this difference exists?
Right. And I think that's where, if someone thinks harshly, meanly, badly about me, if I accept their differences, it doesn't mean I will stay in for the abuse. It means I now have to make choices as to how I'm going to relate to this person. I can't change them, and probably have tried to for a long time, but I can't change them. Now what do I do to position myself with them that has the least toxic effect? So I'm accepting their differences, but I'm adjusting myself to that reality. And then we care for ourselves more. There's better self-protection. There's better self-choices when we accept the differences of others. I was also going to mention that not only are there differences in beliefs, but there can be differences in how we react and feel
toward things. If you really want to get a reaction from someone, feel differently than they feel. I remember, like with mom always wanted me to come and visit her more often at the nursing home. Well, I visited about once a week, spend a couple hours. I would do that. And then occasionally I would do things during the week if she needed to go to doctor's appointment or different things like that. But that was about the pace that I could do and that I was working and so when someone would come to me and say, I was talking to your mom and she sure would like to see you more, and I can just tell she wants you to come visit her more frequently. I go, oh, really? Yeah, she's mentioned that to me before. Well, don't you feel like you should honor your father and mother and you should go and visit her more? And I go, no, I feel pretty neutral about that. Now what reaction are you going to get from somebody else? Because their guilt or their neediness or their obligations or their beliefs are quite different. That if my sainted mother tells them that she'd like to see me more often, they feel I should be empathetic or compassionate more with mom and go and see her more. And that my compassion and my feelings would be different. I'm much more neutral about that. They don't like my neutrality. They see that as a bad thing. And now I'm different in terms of my neutrality. That's just about the frequency that I would like to do, and that feels comfortable for me, and I want to stay connected with my mother, but I don't want to talk to her for 3 hours every day and go visit her. I'm not going to do that. I also knew she had friends. She had, she had calls. And and then there were other residents, and I mean, it wasn't like she was just totally all alone. But even if she was totally all alone, if I'm working and if it's hard, I can't just quit my job and go take care of mom's emotional needs. I just can't do it. But to be okay with that is having a difference of emotional response that people may not like and may not accept.
Yeah, and Jerry, you've mentioned the word reactive, and reactivity in a way is lack of being okay with difference. Because if you are okay with difference, then why would you be reactive to the other person?
Right.
It's exactly what you're saying right now. I'm okay with being neutral, so I don't need to be reactive.
I don't have to go, well, I wish mom wouldn't talk to you about what I should be doing to visit her. Why is she telling you that? I could get reactive, but if I'm okay with my position or I have neutrality, I don't have to react to them and say, thank you for caring about mom, but I'll be fine doing what I'm doing right now. Mom will be fine. She may not have everything she wants, but I don't have everything I want either. I mean, that's kind of life. I mean, I wish I could have everything I wanted. That'd be great. But I think you're right. Accepting those differences and being okay then reduces the reactivity. I like that point where we talked about others can believe what they choose, but I then must act accordingly. And oftentimes we don't want to act accordingly. We don't like the options of acting accordingly because that may mean boundaries. It may mean loss of part of the relationship. It may mean loss of finances. It may mean a lot of things. If we accept what they believe and where they're at, just like if someone believes I'm greedy and cannot manage money, and then a parent decides to give me less inheritance because I would misuse it. Well, I may not be greedy and I may not have financial irresponsibility. But if that's what they believe, that could have an impact on how it affects me. And so do I spend the rest of my life trying to prove to them that I'm deserving of that inheritance? Well, if you decided I'm not going to spend the rest of my life trying to prove that and change them, well, that could mean a loss of inheritance because of their beliefs. So, but how am I going to act accordingly to their beliefs? And I found one of the best ways to change a belief in others is to not be reactive to it. That's it. It's because oftentimes it's counterintuitive. It surprises them. In other words, them having that belief is totally on them to have. And they have to take responsibility for that belief. I'm not going to do things in a reactive way or whatever to enhance that belief or try to defend myself out of that belief. Because oftentimes defending means you're probably already lost. Anyway, so why do I want to defend myself? Oftentimes they've come to those beliefs for other reasons. And me defending myself doesn't fix it. No, I'm not financially responsible. Let me show you all of my past finances. No, I'm not greedy. Let me show you all the ways in which I've given to other people. How much would that truly work? Because often the belief has come from an irrational position or an emotional position or a systems role position that it's not about the logic of it. So me giving you all the financial documents is probably not going to change anything about what you believe about me. And so I want to accept. However, accepting that's what they believe could possibly do more to dislodge them from that position in a systems way. But we don't do that to change them. But I'm just saying that can be a secondary or a byproduct.
Right. That's an important point because this is not about forcing differences. It's about respecting differences, and forcing differences is not respecting differences.
Right. And even if those differences are illogical or irrational, we can still respect them, but then we have to act or choose accordingly how we're going to interact with them. But that's called being an adult. I mean, that's what we do. I can't change others' irrational beliefs. So I respect that. Those are their beliefs. I don't believe them to be true at all, but that's my belief. Now what am I going to do? And, and so when the parent decides, okay, I want you all to know what's in my will, and Jerry, I'm not going to leave anything for you. We're all going to meet Saturday at the lawyer's office. I can decide whether I'm going to go or not. If there's nothing for me or nothing of, why am I going to go? Just to feel, or to be shamed or to be whatever. I mean, I can decide, well, if that's what you believe, then that's what you believe. And I don't see any good reason for me to be there. You're free to do with your money what you want to do. But I don't have to go or I don't have to go to try to beg you to give me some inheritance or, I'm not going to do that. And so I can decide that in a calm, matter-of-fact way.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that the feeling of difference, sometimes it could feel very liberating, and sometimes it could be the scariest feeling on earth. And that's important to remember because these both of these emotions will come up the more you differentiate and the more you find differences And there are certain moments that the differences become scary because you understand you are truly alone. Not that you weren't alone up until now. You were alone,
Right,
you just didn't
but
know
you
you're
just
alone.
didn't know it. Right.
And when you experience the difference, when you really see where you end and the other person starts, it could get scary.
It's profound. Right. And you're right. I am the person that I have, and what boils down to is me. And that's why I like Margaret Paul's work on inner bonding, where we're bonding with ourselves and how important that is. But we really must do that because really the only person you have is you. And that becomes more aware in a very stark way when you start thinking about these differences. Because this is my belief, and I'm not going to get I'm not going to get a vote of a majority positive for what I'm believing or what I'm thinking or how I'm feeling.
And I don't need that vote.
And
that's where the real difference comes in. I don't need that vote.
And that does show how much you are standing alone. And I think there are other people who would be supportive of us, and there are other people we connect with, but we do have to learn to stand alone. And I think that's a part of maturity, is learning to stand alone. Well, we have come to the end of our time. Any other comments you want to make, Yitz, about this?
This was a good conversation. I really enjoyed these series. We could seriously go on forever, and we might go on forever. Who knows?
Right.
But this principle is the essence of self-differentiation work. It's learning to be different. It's learning to respect differences, and it's being okay with the tension of difference. So this is the work.
Good words. This is principle 11, like making peace with differences. And I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Join our membership for a paid $1.99 membership under Join. I want to thank Yitz Goldberg for joining me today on doing this series, also on principles of self-differentiation. We're going to continue on with this. And if you'd like to work with either one of us, you can check with the website that's listed below, and you can make an appointment. You can go to the website and see things that will be coming up. I appreciate you all of you being there and listening to us today. Thank you, Yitz.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, everyone. Hopefully see you in the next principle.
Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great day, and be wise.